Hi there. You're watching Pop Culture Warrior. This is the way.
Hi there, it's your second favorite DP right here, okay? No, that's Deadpool, you silly little Hufflepuff. Anyways, I'm gonna need you to shut up that pretty little mouth of yours and pay attention because the show's about to start, alright? And, I don't know about you, but I know who's my vote for sexiest ex-soldier turned pop culture show host. Alright, enough foreplay, let's get on with the show.
Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, everybody, welcome, one and all. Today is June 11, 2024. This is episode 173rd of Pop Culture Warrior. It's the show where I stay up to date on all the ins and outs of what's happening in pop culture so you don't have to. I'm CQ, I'm the Pop Culture Warrior. And joining me tonight is our very good friend. He is a fellow 173rd survivor. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Angry Elf. Hey!
What's going on?
Have you heard, man? Have you heard?
Of the 173rd
Hell yeah.
Airborne Brigade? Yes, I have.
There
Many
you
a
go.
times.
Oh, man. That takes me back. Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Yes.
Here we go again. How you guys doing? Hey,
Yep.
King. Hey, Keith. How you doing, guys? Man, excited. New things look a little askew, a little different, slightly. You see me kind of like I'm off. I feel like I'm off center here. I'm gonna move this around.
It's like a view askew.
Yeah, I'm still okay. So I talked about this a little bit last week. This is so stupid. In fact, funny enough, King was here earlier, and at noon today, it is 8 p.m. Eastern. At noon today, I completely tore down my entire streaming setup. Completely tore it down. Desk, computers, monitors, everything. And I got a new desk. And it came in. And I was like, well, I got 8 hours to the show. I'm like, that's plenty of time. And so
There's never enough time.
I built the desk in like an hour and a half or so. And I'm like, still got plenty of time. But then, man, like, because I went from I had 2 monitors to now I have 4.5, technically 5, because the prompter acts as a monitor. So, but it's like this big, so it's not like a big one. But yeah, so I mean, putting it all together and mounting the screens and making sure everything worked and then testing everything and all that. It just took. I literally got done like I don't know, 5-10 minutes ago. And I'm not happy. I'll be honest. I'm not happy with how everything is currently. And we were talking about this before we started, but the camera's not exactly where I want it to be, and I feel like my lighting's a little bit off, and just certain things like you're catching glare in the background here. I know the main shot is catching glare on a couple of the items in the background, so I just gotta tinker. I gotta fix where the lights are. I gotta fix where the camera is, and it's my fault for tinkering prior to the show. I know better, and I still did it anyway because I'm impatient and I'm a child. Yeah.
Would it be a pop culture warrior show without some form of technical difficulties?
Yeah.
Challenges, could one say?
Yeah. I don't know. And let me know how the sound is, the lights, the colors, whatever. Just because as much feedback as I can get, I'm trying to make the tweaks necessary. I should have did like a live test, like on a private thing or something. This is just everything connected like 20 minutes ago. I was like, all right, is it working? It's working. Okay, let's go. We'll fix it in post. And like King says, I know CQ, it's going to bother him until he tweaks it. It's already bothering me.
Yeah.
And then everything went wrong. Like these are my backup headphones, which don't fit the way I like because apparently the other one's broke when I was moving things around. So, it's one of the, what we used to call them, struggle streams. It's a struggle stream where
Go
everything
straight.
is, everything's a struggle, but that's okay. It's all good.
I mean, it, it builds character, CQ. Didn't your mom and dad tell you that?
Oh, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Later tonight, I mean, we have joining us comic book royalty, comic book legend, comic book god among men, Chris Claremont. Like, even if you don't know the name, even if you're not familiar with the name, which shame, uh, but even if you don't know, you know the X-Men. Everybody knows the X-Men. And when you think of the X-Men, you are thinking of an iteration that is directly from Chris Claremont's work. Like it's just because whether you're thinking of the movies, whether you're thinking of the cartoons, whether you're thinking of the recent comics, all of it derives, all of it started with Chris Claremont. He didn't create the X-Men, but he made them who they are today. Like it, the list is ridiculous. I went through the list of characters that he created or co-created because he's the writer and then there's the artist. But the list of characters he co-created, the storylines, the Phoenix Saga, Days of Future Past, a lot of the stuff with Genosha, fucking great, Madeline Pryor, Mr. Sinister, like all those storylines, dude, all those characters.
Some of the best Wolverine stories
Some of the
were Chris
best Wolverine
Claremont.
stories. Yep. 100%. 100%.
X-Men Volume 2, #1 with Jim Lee. That was all Chris Claremont.
The comic book that broke records and still today holds records for most issues sold is a direct Chris Claremont,
I have the special edition that had the gatefold cover. I have that twice because the first copy I had, ripped the cover off and put the cover on my wall. Then I had to go buy another one. And then I went and bought it's a 4-cover, right? 4-cover
Yeah.
spread. So I went and bought the individual issues to create that. So yeah, I've purchased like 6 or 7 copies of X-Men Volume 2, #1.
Oh, God bless.
And,
You are outstanding.
and then right before I left to come up my business trip, I handed my daughter a trade paperback of the run of X-Men comics surrounding Days of Future Past. And I said, here, read X-Men while I'm gone. And she's reading Chris Claremont right now.
That's awesome. You got to tell him that when we go to the break. You gotta share that with him because I'm sure he'll love that.
Sure.
And I mean,
Absolutely.
and not just for, hey, Private Murphy, what's up? Is in the house. Mark Baker is for real. He
Yeah.
autographed X-Men issue 137 for me at a Phoenix Comic Con about 1 million years ago. Can you get John Bryan next? I'll try. I'll absolutely try. Big fan of John Bryan. Byron as well. I was supposed to have Joe Quesada. We Quesada. We Quesadilla. I mean, whatever he's going by these days. He kind of left me on read, man. Left me on read receipt, but that's all right. What else? So yeah, don't get used to this. It's gonna change. I don't like it. I like the monitor setup I have now. A lot of information, but the camera, there'll be some adjustments. But on top of that, CQ's been in the lab again. He's been tweaking and twaddling and messing with things because you know me, I can't leave well enough alone. And so I'm looking off stage left, and what I'm seeing, you can't see, is what is the new studios of FTX. For those that don't know, FTX is our Friday night tabletop exercises where we bring in all the boys and we play just tabletop games. Munchkin, Marvel, just anything that can be a board or card game, and we just have fun. We drink, we talk shit, we laugh. It's a good time. Have you caught any of the clips or any of the streams of the FTX?
Oh yeah. I saw the first time you played Marvel
Marvel
Zombies, and then I've
Zombies,
caught a couple
yes,
others, the clips and stuff like that. Um,
yes,
Friday nights are just rough for me
I'm sure.
because we're always trying to do, have either family night or something like that, and try
Yeah,
to,
I get it,
capture what
and
we missed.
but it's a great time. We have a lot of fun, and so when I tell you, I've the same way this is the studio for Pop Culture Warrior, I've created an entirely separate studio, completely different. And the lights went up, um, the cameras up, the microphones are up. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be different. I'm very excited, and I don't know if it's kind of early to talk about, but I'm in collaboration with someone who is going to design and build a completely one of a kind original uh, gaming table for us for the show. It's going to be custom built, engraved with the logos. We're going back and forth on ideas, and I got certain ideas of like elements that I want built into the table, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool, and so we'll see. And if all goes well, I mean, again, you're building this from scratch. This guy is he's an artist with wood, and so it could take a couple weeks, but very excited. Hey, Billy, what's up, man? And Keith, yeah, Keith is going to be hopefully coming down sometime soon to play with us on FTX. And anybody, if you're ever in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, and you want to on a Friday night and you want to come play games with us, we'd love to have you. You're welcome to the studio, and we'll play some games. But I'm very excited with how it came out. Very, very, very excited. Very excited to.
I would come over this Friday night. I gotta go to a concert for Father's Day, but the next time I come up, or yeah, beginning of July.
Yeah,
No, end of July. Excuse me. Maybe I'll come out for Friday nights.
yeah, man, you gotta come check it out.
That might
So
be
yeah,
the thing.
lots of cool stuff happening, and again, it's a little early to share the exact details, but I will just tease that I have a phone call tomorrow. I have a call tomorrow scheduled with, how can I say this without giving it away? I'm struggling. I have a phone call with a company that wants to collaborate and partner.
Flashlight?
That's funny. Uh, for giveaways, for something that is very cool, something that I would love. I would love to just keep, but that's not part of the. That's not how it works. Um, I'll enter myself into the raffle. But needless to say, I have a phone call tomorrow. We're gonna, we've been going back and forth on ideas and whatnots, and so I got an email today, and they're like, "Hey, man, we're ready. We've got the pitch, we've got the contract. Like, let's get on the phone. Let's sign the paperwork and make it official." So, next episode might have something to share. Might have some information to bestow upon the people, and very excited to discuss that because
Are
it's
we going to
pretty cool.
start receiving Robert Downey Jr.'s used boxers that you're going to raffle off on screen?
No, those are for the private collection. Those stay with me. It was so nice of him so generous of him to let me rifle through his laundry. But yeah. Anyway, lots to cover, lots of things happening in the weeks. But let's see what stories do we have? Looking over my notes here. Oh, I guess I could talk about this. Well, there's a review embargo, so I have to selectively talk about it. Let's just say someone has seen season 4 of The Boys. And
Ooh,
because I gotta be careful because there's review embargoes. I look forward to watching it when it airs. Thursday, June 13th is the first 3 episodes, I want to say. And then the remaining 5 will be released weekly through July 18th. I will just say that I look forward to watching it. Yes.
have you
Yes.
have you seen the full season or the first 3 episodes or what?
The full season. Yes. It's only 8 episodes. I mean, it's only 8 episodes. So it goes rather quickly, but it leaves a mark on your soul. We'll just leave it at that. And with that, what has been confirmed, because this is season 4, is that the showrunner Eric Kripke has announced that season 5 will be the last season of The Boys. They are ending the series
Yep, I
on
saw
season
that.
5. Now, that's to say The Boys proper is ending, but they've got multiple stuff in the works. There's Gen V, which is already greenlit for its second season. They're just, with the death of the one actor, they're trying to work that around. They're
Yeah.
working The Boys Mexico is another series that's coming. They have some animated stuff in the works. They released a Diabolical 2 years ago, and I think they're doing more of those.
Yeah.
So there's always something more coming. And I think I can share his exact
Walking Dead.
quote. Yeah, his exact quote about how they plan to end the show is he says he's always had the plan in his mind, and he teased that the ultimate conclusion will be a gory, epic, moist climax. Those were his exact words on how he intends to end season 5 of The Boys. So
Moist.
moist, very moist. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited. Are you excited to see The Boys season
Yes.
4?
Yes. I I I'm I'm conflicted because Friday night I'll be at a concert now. I might want to, say, hey, I know you spent a lot of money on these tickets. I'm staying home and watching the boys. Take the girls, go to the concert. I'll stay here, and then I'll be sleeping on a couch in the backyard by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Might
That
be might be worth it.
might
Just
be worth it.
saying. Just saying. What else happened recently? We had the Xbox showcase come up recently. Let me pull up. I believe the other thing is, like, I feel like my buttons are now way farther away than they should be. So I gotta move shit around. Let's see if that pulls it up. There it is. So on your screen, Angry Elf can't see it, but on your screen now is the Xbox Games Showcase announcement of 2024. Not a lot of surprises here. I'm always a little disappointed when, like, some of the announcements are like DLC. Like Fallout 76 came out like 3 years ago. Why are we announcing DLC for it? Like, whatever. Sea of Thieves. Why are we announcing DLC? Things like that. But some of the big announcements, like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle or whatever, like, who wants an Indiana Jones game? Really? Who wants an Indiana? There's a Doom game which looks pretty good. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Who isn't excited about that? I mean, for God's sakes, Microsoft. The Doom
Give me
game looks
another
good.
freaking Ace Combat, please.
Ace Combat. Tell me about it. Now, I will say, of all of these that are on the screen, the one I'm probably most excited for, it's a toss-up. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. But again, like it's not even an original game, right? It's a remake of a classic. Uh okay,
It looks like a
so
new game.
it looks good. It looks phenomenal. But as far as
Yeah.
new game that I'm excited about, Gears of War E-Day, which Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, probably one of the greatest game franchise trilogies of all time. I think it's up there narratively, story, gameplay, mode, all of it. All of it. Like Call of Duty in its heyday. 4 and 5, it's a lot of the
Yeah.
same, whatever. I'm excited for E-Day to go back and play kind of the like what it was. Obviously E-Day is the day that the locust first arrived, and to see that from that perspective, like it's like watching what was the one they just announced, A Quiet Place, but like day one, where like where the monsters first showed up and shit. So like it's kind of like that, in fact, we're gonna play the trailer. We're gonna play the trailer for the people, so the people at home can enjoy this. So let's do that now. I'm gonna mute us, and we're gonna play this trailer. Thank you,
Pest.
Keith. I forgot to take us off mute.
Oh, we were muted
Classic.
the entire time.
Yeah. Here, let's go back to the games list, just because I do wanna showcase this. Yeah. So Gears of War E-Day. I mean, looks incredible. I mean, come on. Who isn't excited at the prospect of like once again rolling deep with Marcus Phoenix and Dominic is back. Oh God, justice for Dom. Oh, but yeah, so that looks fun. Call of Duty is Call of Duty. I mean, it is what it is. They
It's
added
almost
like,
getting to the point of like Madden.
yeah, it's
There's one
like
for every year.
Yeah, I just whatever. Yeah, so like King said here, Warcraft on Xbox, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Outside of that, man, Perfect Dark. I mean, did you ever play like the original Perfect Dark? Like I think that was like on the first Xbox. Uh, it was kind of
No,
like
I don't think so.
it was kind of like new age GoldenEye. Like remember GoldenEye in the N64?
Yeah. I remember.
When
Oh yeah.
yeah, Xbox when they first came out, they were like, we're gonna have our fucking James Bond GoldenEye clone, and it was Perfect Dark,
Yeah.
which I think
I
was even
think
made by the same developer. It was made by Rare, I think. But
I may have played it once or twice, but
yeah,
no.
it was. But so I'm interested to see if you're going to bring back a legacy franchise like that. I'm interested to see what they do with it.
Mhm.
Fable, obviously from another big developer.
Yeah.
State of Decay 3. I really enjoyed State of Decay 1 and 2. It's just one of those games for me that like I can only play for so long before I'm like,
Right.
because there's lots to do, right? Like you're rescuing people and you're like fortifying your base, and you're going out and killing zombies and doing all these things. Um, and oh yeah, Phil says yeah. Perfect Dark was basically the Lara Croft of the future. It was like yeah, like cyberpunk Tomb Raider, um, with
Yeah, I
mixed with
did play it.
like
Now that
yeah, mixed with
yeah.
like GoldenEye. Um, but yeah, so State of Decay, I enjoy it. I'll definitely play it. I just know I'll probably have a short run at it. Everything else, man, like nothing really jumped out at me. Atom Fall looked interesting a little, mixtape and a couple of others, but yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I get the feeling like Xbox is just kind of biding their time. Like, does that make sense? Like,
No,
it's
it
like,
kind of does feel like they're kind of treading water or kind of just floating along. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Billy says you can't wait for AC Shadow. You know what? Here's the thing. I'll probably get it. I'll probably get it. I probably won't get it at launch. I'll probably wait because 2 months later they'll do like a big sale and everything will be half off, and then I'll probably pick it up. Usually, I'll get an Assassin's Creed game when it's like $25, $30, something like that. I'm just,
When does it drop?
I think that one's November. I want to say so.
Just wait for GameStop to do Black Friday, and it'll probably be somewhere
Uh,
between 30 and 50% off.
I don't buy physical discs anymore. Listen, Grandpa, I don't own physical media.
You know,
Nobody owns physical media anymore. Let's see. I'm still waiting for the proper Dino Crisis 3 that we all deserved. Oh my God. God, I forgot all about that.
Dino
But
Crisis. Are you and you're calling me grandpa?
I mean, it just popped up. Let that be. I'm gonna leave that where it is. Um, on top of E-Day too, it was also announced that there's actually a Gears of War 6 being made. So the franchise is telling stories in both directions. They're adding on to the end and they're going back to the beginning. So you
Plenty of other
will.
franchises have done that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What would have went? I mean, we've seen like Call of Duty do it,
Yeah.
where they kind of bounce back and forth between timelines.
Assassin's
Um,
Creed. Assassin's
I
Creed,
mean,
forget about trying to keep track of
yeah,
which
Assassin's Creed is
the, o-
literally about jumping through different timelines. That's it's like,
the only time they went linear was with Ezio. After that, it was like forget about it, trying to keep up with what's going on,
yeah.
which direction of the timeline they're doing.
Um, Also, a great point is Metal Gear Solid, right? Because you had Metal Gear
Yeah.
Solid, then was it Sons of the Patriots takes place after, but then Metal Gear
Yep.
Solid 3, Snake Eater took place before, and then 4
Yep.
took place way in the future, and then 5 went way back to the past. They're just
Yeah.
time hopping like a son of a bitch. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid Delta looks amazing. I mean, it's just a remake of Snake Eater. I mean, but I'll get it and I'll play it and I'll like it and I'll talk to David Hayter about it here in 4 weeks. I think 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I'll be in California from MGS2 Con, Sons of Our Cons. But
This
Mhm.
When does Metal Gear Solid Delta drop? I didn't see that. What date it drops?
I don't think they gave a date. They just said this year.
Okay.
I don't think they gave an actual date. So
Okay.
keep,
May-
keep
Maybe it drops in a month and it's just a unannounced drop. Like,
probably not. Um,
probably not.
the first. Okay, so here's a funny story: is that people have been losing their minds because Black Ops 6 got announced. People can
Yeah.
pre-order it now, even though it doesn't come out for a couple months or whatever. And people started pre-ordering it, and you can do like the early install. And
Mhm.
there are people reporting like 200, 250, 300 gigabytes of data being stored for Black Ops 6. And I'm like, who takes up 200 to 300 gigs for a game that's not going to be out for however long? And just games don't need to be that big. Games don't need to be that big. What was it? I was just reading this thing about like one of the best games that came out, and it was like 16 gigs at the time, and people were like, "Oh my god, this is insane! Like it's too big." And it was a great. It was oh, it was like no, it was like GTA 5. I think when it came out originally was like 15, 16, 20 gigs, and people were like, "This game's massive." And now we have these, bro, 300 gigs.
There's no need for that.
And 200 gigs of that are microtransaction skins that you have to buy. it's
It's,
it's ridiculous.
and another reason why I don't play uh
Shooters.
what Call of Duty. I totally brain farted. Call of Duty anymore. Call of Duty's just gotten to the point where yeah, no.
Yeah. Again, when I find it on sale, I'll get it. I'll pick it up, but it just doesn't hit the way it used to. Maybe we're just getting old. I don't know, but it just doesn't hit the way it used to. I'll tell you what, man. Mad Mike put me onto something because I started getting. I was like, okay, I need something to play, and I'm
Yeah.
like looking, and I've got Game Pass and all the other things. So I'm looking through games, and I'm like, just nothing. Nothing seems interesting. Like nothing seems like I want to. Oh wow, I want to play this, or I've heard good things about this. There's just nothing there.
Yeah.
And funny enough, Mike, who did, God bless him, Mad Mike
Mhm.
is one of those people that everything is horrible. But once in a blue moon, he'll text me and he'll be like, "Hey, did you see this? This looks pretty good." Didn't play it, didn't read reviews on it. Like he has this intuition.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, "Dude, you don't know shit." But I tell you what, I started playing the one like games that he would just randomly go like, "Oh, that looks good." He is 100%. Every game he's ever been like, "Oh, that looks interesting," or "Oh, that looks good," has been
Yeah.
a phenomenal game. The last one he just put me onto was Hellblade. Hellblade. And I'm like, I never heard of it. I never thought about it.
You're right.
I was like, no review. I played that game, and I have to say, anybody out there that like really likes a good challenge and a good game, like it's not like Dark Souls where like you just want to smash your face into the wall. Like it's a playable game, but like real quick, I'll just tell you, uh, I love it because it treats you as if you're a person who has played video games before. And most games don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like every game is designed like here you accidentally picked up a controller and you've never played a game before. Press
Right.
A to do that. Like it's so dumbed down. This game, there's no UI. It's just you are in the world. Like the game
Mhm.
starts, you're just like paddling. There's this chick, and you're like paddling down this river, and then you get off the boat, and like I was waiting for the game to tell me to do something, and she's just standing there, and I'm
Right.
like, "What the fuck is going?" And then I push up, and she starts walking. I'm like, "Holy shit!" The game didn't tell me follow this icon or do this thing. I walked, and there's a path, and you walk down the path, and you get attacked. It didn't tell me to press X for this or RB for that. Like
Right.
he just throws you right into the world. And I think in the entire game there was like 3 pop-ups, and
Mhm.
2 of them were very early. And literally the one, which is such a cool idea, again, I love this, is she basically gets infected with this thing in her hand, and it's like every time you die, you'll respawn, but that infection spreads. And it spreads and it spreads every time you die. And once it gets up to your neck and brain,
Yeah.
the game basically deletes itself. You start over. Like you die, that's it, game's over. And you can't reload a save. Like you have to go back to the beginning and start over. So it makes the game so like it means something, right? Like now you're like, holy shit, like your butthole puckers when you see an enemy come, and then they throw enemies at you. Like there's times where like, because it's like dueling, like you're fighting with swords and shit, and all of us, and then like I think it's Spider-Man, right? When you're fighting someone in Spider-Man, and then like the little fucking warning comes, there's an attack coming, and you can counter, and like you don't even
Yeah.
see where it's coming from. This, like, the enemies will surround you. You can't see behind you, and they'll just smack the shit out of you from behind and kill you. Like, so you have to constantly be like moving and looking behind and like trying to
Yeah.
block and attack and all. There's no, like you have to watch their body movements. So like when a guy kind of goes like up, oh shit, block, right? Because there's an
Right.
attack coming. So you really have to pay attention to everything. You have to pay attention to the people who it's a dope ass game. It's a dope ass game. And I love that, like, I really had to figure shit out. I like, cause it'll tell, like, you'll just be in an area and all of a sudden it's like a fire puzzle. But there's no instructions. It's just there's a torch there, and then there's like a hole over there, and then you're just like, like, and you just have to figure it out. And man, I really enjoyed that game because it's been a while since I felt something, and this game made me feel something. And it's also a beautiful story, and she's on a revenge quest and trying to get her lover was killed, and so she's now like storming the gates of hell to like get him back, and it's like a whole thing. It was good. So
And you
yeah,
say you felt something.
I felt something.
You felt it right here.
I felt
Was it?
right
Was it
heartburn.
right
I got
here?
heartburn.
Heartburn.
Yeah,
You gotta
I got
stay away
heartburn.
from those buffalo wings, man.
I'll tell you, every time. Does it to me every time. What else? I should probably keep this open because I know we have a guest joining later. Where is?
What?
Sorry, I got distracted.
What? What about the new little announcement from Deadpool Wolverine?
Which? Oh, that's that. What's her name's not in it.
Oh, who cares about Taylor Swift? No, I'm
Like,
talking about
what's
the little trailer they did, and at the end of the trailer, you see
the
someone in red and black
the
with
lady
high heels
legs?
on. Come,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's been known for a while that Lady Deadpool's in it, and I'm dollars
right.
to donuts. It's gonna be Blake Lively. I mean, it just
Oh
makes
yeah, oh,
sense. It just makes sense.
no doubt.
It's
Now,
just
what I
one of
want to
those
know
things.
is she just voicing Lady
No,
Deadpool,
she's gonna be in the
or is she
suit.
gonna take the mask off and we're gonna see her?
She's gonna be in the suit. Like if you're Ryan Reynolds and you're
Right.
married to, and you know how much he loves being in that suit. He's in that suit every chance he gets. And you're married to Blake Lively, you're gonna put her in the suit. You're gonna make her own suit, and they probably go home and they do their little cosplay, Deadpool on Deadpool. X gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? Like, they get in after it. I'm sure. I know I would if it wasn't me. I know I would. But yeah. What else? What other stories do we got? I don't like where everything is. I have to move
What
things.
else?
Oh, they announced, for those speaking of Madden, for those that are into Madden, they've announced who this year's cover athlete is. Not really surprising. Christian McCaffrey
Oh yeah.
is the cover athlete, which means he's going to get seriously hurt this year, probably end his career.
Seriously hurt or have a completely bad season.
Or
One
just a
of the
bad
two,
season.
if not
Don't
both.
draft him. Don't draft him. I'm in a fantasy football league, and we just had this joke, and God, please, I hope it's a joke. But someone was like, we should make it so that every first pick of this year's draft, like every team's first pick, has to have been a Madden cover athlete at some point. You know,
Are
which
you
like
kidding me?
yeah, which is just horrible because that leaves you with like Odell Beckham, which who's gonna draft him first pick? Because outside of Christian McCaffrey, it's like the quarterbacks. You have Patrick Mahomes and I think was it Rob Gronkowski and Brady. Like, is there even anybody still in the league that's been on a Madden cover? But anyway, so yeah, that's it. In other news, in gaming news, Division 3, which I'm a big fan of the Division series. Division 3 is officially starting development soon. So 3 years from now, we maybe see a game if there's still
Maybe.
a company by then. I don't know. Um, and the final bit of game news, which I know some people out there are going to get this, but there was a patch for Alan Wake 2 recently. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'm excited. I'm excited. There's a photo mode in Alan Wake
Ooh.
2. Yeah, that's real. But in all seriousness, they also dropped the DLC, which was called like the Night Springs DLC. It adds like 3 new chapters to the game. Um, so for anybody been watching for a while, there was a month or so that I was just addicted to Alan Wake 2. I might have
Remember?
I might have canceled the show just so I could play. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but it's all a blur.
I remember.
But but that was a that
Pepperidge
was a
Farm remembers.
that was a good
Pepperidge
month.
Farm remembers.
That was a good month. I enjoyed that month. But now that they just dropped the DLC, I will be playing it. Let's see, in about an hour from now, a little over an hour from now, I'll be playing the DLC for Alan Wake 2.
Next week's show is canceled due to Alan Wake. It is canceled,
I'll
folks.
be done with
Take
it
it
by
off your
then.
calendar.
It's a
It's canceled.
DLC. I'll be done with it by then. Calm down. Calm down. It's different.
Shit, he'll
Like,
be done with it before everybody wakes up tomorrow morning.
now I think tonight I might tinker with my setup. I might play tomorrow because I gotta. This is I gotta figure something out. I
You need to
like
take
it.
a break.
I like it. It that well. I gotta get a clamp and do all. I gotta anyway. Whatever. I got stuff I gotta do. I gotta figure this out. Let's see. Phil says GTA Online is about to push their summer DLC. It's a bounty hunting business and heist. Man, I didn't really get into GTA Online. I enjoyed GTA 5, when it came out 20 years ago. I enjoyed it. I haven't
Yeah.
kept up with it much over the last couple years. After buying like 3 versions of it, I kind of got over it. Billy
Wait,
says,
it came out on the PS3,
yeah,
right? That was
uh-huh.
the original system, and then what? That was the Xbox One at the time, right?
Yeah, the Xbox One, and then it was the Xbox Series X. No, Xbox One X, and then now the Xbox Series X. Yeah, it's been
Okay,
on.
so it's been on 3 generations of consoles.
Yeah, yeah.
I have, I know I purchased it for the 3 and the 4, and then for the PlayStation 5. I think since I had spent so much money, they gave it to me or something. I don't know, or it's just free to play now. I have it for the 5.
They're like,
I haven't
since
played it
you
on the
bought it
5.
6 times, the 7th is free.
Yeah. So, you know,
Uh, yeah. Oh
maybe we'll
yeah.
extend that deal to,
Sorry, Phil says
you
that
know,
it came out on the 360 originally.
oh, that's
I
right.
want to say like I'm trying to remember, but like 3. I don't know. I remember playing the first couple on PlayStation. It's like PlayStation 2, and then PlayStation 3 came around, and then I think that's when it jumped to Xbox as well. And anyway, it was a whole thing. But I just yeah, like release 6 already. My God, just release 6. Milking the shit out of it.
6 is not going to come out until you're 50.
Probably. 6 more console generations from now. 2013. Oh my God. 2013 is when GTA 5 came out.
11 years ago, you milked a game for a decade plus.
Mhm. I mean, I'm sure it's just pumping money. I'm sure it's just pumping money out. So, I mean, I get it. I get it. You know, it just my oh God, that's just so much money. It's so much
I mean,
money. Um, what else? Billy had asked a question. Thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws? Have you any thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws? Have you seen any of the stuff yet?
I know that it's out. I haven't played it.
You haven't seen anything?
I'll tell you this right now. Star Wars, anything new is kind of like I'm gonna give it like a month or two to filter through,
You're
and then
such a Star Wars fan, though. You're such a Star Wars fan, and you just
I am, but it's now gotten to the point where I've got to be like,
at it's arm's distance. You got to be arm's distance.
yeah,
Oh,
I'll let it filter through. The last thing in Star Wars I really played was it last year, the year before that Star Wars
Fallen,
Survivor. That was last
fallen.
year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was Souls. Was it Survivor was the first one, and then Fallen Order was the second one. There was a sequel. So I don't know if you did you play the first one or did you play the
No,
second
I
one?
played the I no, I played the two.
Oh yeah,
I've played the two.
yeah. Fallen Order was the second one, which I enjoyed. I thought they were really good. I thought they were really
Oh,
good.
they
Cal
were good
Kestis.
games.
Hmm?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm all over it. But no, there was just something about it. What is it? Is it on console? I
I,
can't remember.
I think so. Right now, this is why I have multiple windows now. I can do this. Let's see,
Okay.
Star Wars Outlaws, uh, video game. Yeah, obviously. Xbox, PS5, PC, and more. Ubisoft game. Let's see what they have
Oh, there's a
here.
red flag.
Available August 30th. I mean, it looks pretty.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
If you're willing to take the risk, the galaxy is full of opportunity.
You know,
Experience the first ever open world Star Wars game set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Explore distinct locations across the galaxy, both iconic and new. Risk it all as Kay Vess, a scoundrel seeking freedom and the means to start a new life, along with her companion, Nyx. Fight, steal, and outwit your way through the galaxy's crime syndicates as you join the galaxy's most wanted. The
oh, yeah, I know this
open
game.
world wasn't
Yeah,
like what was it, Old Republic? Wasn't that an open world game? I mean, technically.
yeah, but Old Republic was not well. Old Republic was a MMO,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
and then, but that was an online service game where everybody, yeah, kind of like World of Warcraft. There was Knights of the Old Republic 1 and the Knights of the Old Republic 2, but those
Yeah,
games are like 15, 20 years old,
way more,
pushing.
way more, way
They came out.
more.
I remember I played Knights of the Old Republic on Xbox. Xbox, the
I remember
original
being a
Xbox.
kid playing like the legacy Knights of the Old Republic. It was the legacy edition. It had already been out for like whatever,
Yep.
10 years or whatever.
Shoot, I have those games on my iPad that
That's
I can
true.
play. In fact, I played
Yeah.
Knights of the Old Republic again on my iPad 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
So let's see.
yeah. I mean, those are good games.
It says explore an open world with new and iconic locations. Experience unoriginal scoundrel story. Embark on high stake missions. Engage in dogfights as you travel the outer rim. Oh, look, there's pre-order
Yeah.
bonuses. What? No way. And a season
Yeah.
pass. Oh,
Well, no,
goody.
now I do remember this game, and the reason is there is a mission involving Jabba the Hutt that's one of the pre-order bonuses, and
Mm,
now remember people got upset because a mission involving a character like Jabba the Hutt is locked behind
yeah.
a pre-order bonus. It's probably going to be one of those that like it's early access when you pre-order it or
Yeah.
whatever, or you get the season pass or something, and then
Hmm.
later on down the line they'll release it and open it up for everybody else. But it's like this is one of those games where no, I'm not. I'll play as a Jedi. I'll play as a clone, but scoundrel.
Ah,
Oh
come on.
wait,
You gotta spread your wings. You gotta try new things. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I
yeah,
have such disdain for companies that make a game
yep,
and market that game and sell that game and then go, "Ooh, if you give us extra money, we'll give
uh-huh,
you day one DLC," which I'm like, it's not day one DLC. It's a piece of the game that you put behind a paywall.
yeah.
Release what you've made. If you want to make more shit after the fact and release it as DLC, God bless. I'm going to get the Alan Wake 2 DLC, which came out. It's been a couple months since it came. That's how DLC should work. But if you told me experience Alan Wake 2's, side story day one, like, then it's fucking part of the game. It's not DLC. It's available. It's there. You're just being a dick about it. So anyway, I get so mad. I get so
Well,
angry.
it's like the Spider-Man 2 game. Everybody's assuming that there's a DLC because the first game from 18 had 3 DLCs, but that game dropped in September of that year, and by Christmas we had all 3 of the DLCs. They
Mm,
dropped like every 2 weeks or whatever between Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever it was. With the second game, that game released in September or October of last year, and they haven't. The only thing they've dropped is a
Some new
couple of
new
costumes,
suits. Yeah.
skins, and it's like, dude, give it up. This whole freaking wet dream that they're actually going to do a DLC. We got what we got, and I've I completed the game. I'm done with it, and I was like, well,
Hang on one second. We're gonna jump to a break because I gotta take this call because I'm guessing it's one of our people. So hang on one second. We're gonna go to a break.
all right.
You're listening to the sounds of WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, you there? Yeah, it is right, you. Let me ask you something, alright? Where the hell do you think that you're going? Oh, would you think because the show is going to commercial that means you get to just walk away? Well, CQ asked me to pass on the little message, alright? And it says, I'll be back.
After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me now? And if I told you everything, I bet you cry and run away. 'Cause with all the lies I keep, made you believe this was me. The truth is
watching Pop Culture Warrior. The force is strong. They have the high ground.
Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Pop Culture Warrior. I am your host, CQ. Tonight, you've all been waiting for it. It's here. It's now. The time is now. Tonight, we have a very special guest on Pop Culture Warrior, a man who needs no introduction in the world of comic books. He's a legend, a visionary, and the creative genius behind some of the most iconic characters and storylines in the Marvel Universe. His initial, unbroken 17-year run on Marvel Comics' The Uncanny X-Men is the stuff of industry legend. During that tenure, he took a lackluster series and transformed it into the dominant, best-selling title in the industry. His run culminated with the launch of the new title, X-Men, the first issue selling over 7.6 million copies. No one's ever come close to breaking this record. Unbelievable. It's huge. From revitalizing the X-Men to creating unforgettable characters like Rogue and Psylocke and Kitty Pryde and a million other ones, he shaped the comic book landscape like precious few others. His narratives include things like the Dark Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past. They've not only been captivated comic book readers, but have also made their way into blockbuster films and TV shows. Basically, if you've ever heard of the X-Men, you have this man to thank. He's a master storyteller, a passionate creator, and an inspiration to many. Please join me in welcoming the uncanny Chris Claremont to everybody. Yay!
Good evening. Just to be a
Please.
just to be a trifle picky, it's 7.8 million.
How dare I? How dare I? 7.8. 7.8. I stand corrected. First of all, thank you for being here. It is an honor as a longtime comic book fan, as an X-Men fan. I mean, the fact that we could sit here and have this talk and just kind of geek out about the industry and everything, it means the world to me. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
The honor and the pleasure is mine.
Awesome. We're gonna start off with like we do with every interview. Hit us with, and I know because we've talked in the past about this, but I want the people at home to know this. What is your military connection?
Complicated? Well, there was this big war a long, long time ago in a continent not so far away. And living in the UK, my uncle was in the RAF. My father was in medical school, RAF medical school. And my mom got stood up on a date one evening, and she was walking home and she saw this beautiful, beautiful photograph, painting almost, of a Spitfire just roaring up through the sky. And her instant reaction was, I want to fly that plane. So she went into the recruiting office, and the recruiter quietly waited until she had signed the she'd signed up before telling her that girls were not allowed to fly. But since my mother was a university graduate, she could run a radar station or be in a radar station. So she spent the next couple of years on the South Coast on a radar station. As I find myself saying it, not to make people upset, greeting day visitors from across the channel. But they were very careless visitors, and they would leave litter all over the place. So she would help call up the local, shall we say, constabulary to fly up and remonstrate with them. And this went on for a while. And after the war, my father graduated medical school, and you know, my uncle was severely wounded. He recovered, but everybody, put in their bit. And then we came over here on what we thought was a visit because we had family over here. And the next thing we knew, my father had signed up for the army. This was post Korea, and doctors were seriously needed. And the next thing we knew, he was an officer in the Army Medical Corps, and he served 4 years. Most of it at Fitzsimmons Army Hospital in Denver, and to get his citizenship the old-fashioned way, you did
Earn
your
it,
duty,
yeah.
and that was that.
Nice.
And so that was that.
Well, I mean, obviously, we so grateful for their service. Obviously, everybody that's put their time in and raised their hand and done it. It's been, it's a part of a long legacy. So that's amazing. Let me ask you, because we always like to get to know our guests a little bit up front, and this is obviously a pop culture show. So, what is it that you kind of geek out about, right? Outside of maybe, outside of the comic world, which is the industry you're in, but like personally, what do you geek out about?
Well, it's interesting because I started university with a focus on international relations and political theory, which was a very interesting it was a very interesting course orientation in the late 60s. And but I went from there into theater, which was my other love. And what I failed to notice all along was that what I did when I wasn't doing anything else was right. And the next thing I knew, I was earning a living as a writer, which, as everyone knows, it's almost as impossible as earning a living as an actor, which is almost as impossible as earning a living as a political theorist. So who knew? And that I just, my grandfather, who himself skipped out of Russia about 5 minutes ahead of the Tsar's secret police. We're a very exciting revolutionary family, evidently. Would always ask me, when would I earn a substantial job? And my reply was always, when this one would stop paying. And it never did. So that was the better part of 55 years ago, which is terrifying when you think about it. I just always wrote, and it was always fun. And what I did when I wasn't writing was go to theater, hang out with friends. Now what I do is walk the dog.
Well, and I think as I was reading up on you and understanding your history,
all lies.
Oh, the internet is full of lies. It's so good. But no, I love the idea that you had this passion for theater and acting, and how a lot of people speculate that the focus on being character driven, right? As an actor, what's my motivation? What's my what's my character thinking? Why is he doing? Really went well for your work in the comic books, in that you gave these characters real depth.
Well, that's what writers do. You craft people, and then the story evolves out of the people. I mean, who would have paid any attention to Harry Potter if Harry was a dunce?
Right.
The key is to, or for that matter, Game of Thunks. I mean, you care about the story because you care about the people in the story.
Mm.
You turn on the TV show or go to the movie when we used to go to movies, because you're interested in the people.
Mm.
I mean, you have to craft characters that the audience will bond with and grow the story itself out of them. Otherwise, why will anyone care? And if they don't care, why would they spend the money and go to the cinema and sit there for 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
You know, the popcorn isn't that good.
That's all right.
Well, it's falling in love with those who are on the screen. If you don't fall in love with them, if you don't fall in love with the characters on the TV set, then what's the point? You turn the channel until you find someone you do bond with.
Exactly.
And the key thing that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did with the Marvel Pantheon is that they created Jack created characters in the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and whomever that you would look at and go, huh, those are really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But then Stan would give them a voice and a life that made you want to turn the page and see what happens next. Because comics, American comics, are a period piece. You get to the 20th page and it's like, what the heck happens next? And you have to wait 30 days until the next issue comes out. And you want to be the first in queue at the comic book store or at the newsagent to get that issue and find out. And that's what always, for me, that's what made the X-Men so much fun. And especially in the first 100 issues, I had the great good fortune of being teamed up with Dave Cockrum, who created the modern X-Men as we visually created the modern X-Men as we know it. And then John Byrne, who took what Dave planted and fleshed it out to an extraordinary extent. And then the incredible good fortune of having Dave come back on the book for another 25, 30 issues. And then we topped it off with Paul Smith. So you have this arc of 3 artists, essentially, defining the terms of the next, well, at this point, 400 issues, 500 issues, because
it's incredible.
Well, yeah, and it's a continuity and a coherence that very, very few other titles have enjoyed. I mean, Stan Stan stayed on the FF for 100 issues as the writer. Jack stayed on it for 100 issues as the artist. My incredible stubbornness was staying on the X-Men from 1975 to 1991. I mean, almost well over 200 issues. And then I kept coming back over the next 40 years. So go figure. But the problem was the characters for me were so much fun to play with. I had Scott, Gene, Warren, Bobby, Hank. Wow, 4 white guys and a white gal. There's a lot of variety there. And in those days, all the Marvel ladies were always Marvel Girl, Invisible Girl, this girl, that girl. It's like time to grow them up. So Jean turned into Phoenix. And then Phoenix blew up, ate a star and killed 6 billion people and chose to pay the price. And that, she was half of the second oldest romantic relationship in the Marvel Pantheon. Nobody expected that. And we almost got away with it. I mean, you know, Jim Shooter promised we'd keep her dead, and we took him at his word, and the audience never believed it. Their hearts were broken, but that's what you do in telling a good story. You know, it's like, again, going back to Game of Thrones, no one expected
Ned Stark.
father to get Ned
Yeah.
Stark to come to the end he did. For those of you who haven't seen the first arc,
The first season.
to come to the end he did.
Yeah.
But that was like, oh my gosh. Well, again, surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
That's what good storytelling is all about.
It's funny, you hit on, so there's a question in the audience from Mark who says, do
Hi, Mark.
do you remember in 1980 you and Stan Lee said that you would not bring back Phoenix from the dead? So I love that your last answer basically touched on that, which is awesome.
Well, it gets very awkward going further into that sort of element of history, because a lot of people were involved and a lot of passions were involved and a lot of, I mean, when I heard the news of her resurrection, I was in the middle of a plot dinner, and I jumped up and ran back to the office, but it was Friday and the office was locked and Jim Shooter had already gone home. So we finished, Barry Windsor Smith and Ann Nesenti and I finished plotting the story we were plotting. I went home, indulged in some bourbon, because there was no tequila, and went home and basically spent the weekend coming up with a better idea.
That's awesome.
And then went in Monday and pitched it to Jim Shooter. And he actually thought it was a good idea, but he'd already greenlit the resurrection.
Mm.
And what can you do?
What can you do? There's another question from the chat from Captain Wayne. He says, who's your most and least favorite mutant?
Most favorite is the one I haven't created yet. Least favorite, the one I'm not writing.
All
There's
the
a
other
very
ones.
large list right now, but that's a whole different discussion.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm curious because, you obviously you started your career in comic books in the late 1960s.
Yes.
Sorry, not to date anyone here, but just I'm curious, what were your thoughts on the industry coming into it, and really what did you want to get out of it at that time?
Oh, we figured it was dead. We figured it'd be dead by the early 70s. I mean, the sales were collapsing. DC we were all, think of the DC and Marvel as people at opposite ends of the middle of the Titanic. Oh, look, a big iceberg. Whoopee. Let's collect some ice and make a margarita.
Okay.
No, we had no idea that anything was going to go any further. But for me, the fun was the opportunity of working with Dave. I mean, at that point, I was associate editor working. Len Wein was editor in chief, and he and Dave were putting together the X-Men. And I would sneak into Len's office, which had a door, but he couldn't keep it shut because he was the boss, and just admire the art and listen to the plot discussions. And I thought, these are really cool characters. These are really cool characters. And then Len would yell at me to get out of his office and go back to work. And when circumstances led to his giving up Uncanny, I essentially tackled him and said, I want the book. And since he only had room in his schedule for 4 monthly titles, and this is a bi-monthly, he let me have it. In retrospect, a great many people reconsider that their decisions that were made back then, but I was having the most fun ever.
That's awesome. I'm curious.
Sorry, but again, none of us thought we would last very long.
Right.
And so Dave and our attitude was, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And
they drive it like you stole it.
not really, because you learn very quickly that, who owns the thing. I mean, Stan spent an entire career wanting to be boss, and his cousin was owner manager of the company, and he never did, because just because you're related, or maybe because you're related, doesn't mean you get what you want.
So I'm curious, because I know at this point, or even however long ago, I'm sure you hear all the time, like, oh, your work inspired me, influenced me. When you're getting into it, obviously not coming from a place where, oh, you were really passionate about comic books prior to that. What were your influences when it came to your writing in these stories? And then throughout the years, has that changed?
Well, most of my influences were prose, science fiction writers, non-science fiction writers. The only comic book significant comic influences I had prior really to getting hooked on the FF, and that was that was when I was in 11th grade, I think. So it's back in the middle late 60s. But the influences that I always felt were most prominent with me were English comics, mostly out of a weekly magazine called Eagle. So it was a 2-page color series, Dan Dare, Sky Pilot of the Spaceways, all about Wing Commander Daniel Dare of the Global Space Command and his Batman Digby. And this is when there were indigenous people on Venus. There were indigenous people on Mars, threatened by their evil dictator, the Mekon. Then there were interstellar people, the interstellar races that they encountered. I thought that was the coolest stuff yet. And then another was Heroes the Spartan, about a young Spartan warrior, or a young warrior who was descended from Spartans, but he was actually an officer in the Roman legions. And that was only a half page. So it was brilliant stuff. And it was a weekly magazine founded by a Church of England minister. So it was all very proper, but it was way cool. And so much more so than its American counterparts, until I started reading FF with Stan and Jack. And then that led me to Thor by Stan and Jack, which next led me to the Avengers by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. And step by step.
And then history's born.
Well, it evolved, let's say. But I never thought of getting into it. until when I was in university, they used to shut down for 2 months in January and February. They said for field period, which is where they tossed everybody out and you were expected to get a job focused on your major subject.
Mhm.
We always figured it was basically because they didn't want to pay the heat for the 2 worst months of the winter. I don't know about the rest of you, but this here in the Northeast was when we used to have winter. Snow.
Long
I don't know
time
if you
ago.
remember snow, but that's a whole different discussion. But my first field period was when I went to work for Marvel as a gopher. And that was really cool. My second field period, I spent working in Israel on a kibbutz, which was even more fascinating. About halfway between the 6-Day War and the Second War.
Mm.
So this is back in, again, 60s, 70s.
This is
It was interesting. I mean, fascinating and heartbreaking compared to what's going on there now.
Right.
But again, it was, this is the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. It was a whole different world in a lot of ways. But it was fascinating looking at things from different perspectives. It was I mean, I have my only Bible, which I used as the source material for God Loves Man Kills. I bought from an English language bookstore in Jerusalem, which even the thought of that is so absurd. I mean, literally spending time about where in the valley in Haela, which is the valley where David fought Goliath. So on one hand thinking, wow, I'm like maybe a half dozen clicks from the old Jordan border.
Mm-hmm.
And going up to spend a couple of nights in Jerusalem, going on a field trip down into the Negev, hanging out in just roaming around the center of Israel and thinking this is a whole different reality, except especially from when back home Kent State's happening. It's and I have to say it, and forgive me, I just didn't mean to end up going down this path.
Please.
It's sitting in 8th grade maths class and having someone run in and say they've just shot the president, and we're all going, what are you, an a-hole? Who's good? And that was it. It's having John assassinated in 63, and then 5 years later going to bed thinking, the last things I remember are Bobby saying, and now we're going on to Chicago. I'm thinking, this is going to be fun. And of course, the next morning, my father's, and this is like 2 months after Martin King.
Wow.
I mean, it's like thinking that here we are in the spring of 68 and the world's coming to an end, and
I'm reminded of that quote, the more things change, the more things stay the
more
same.
the same.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, no. I mean, but it is weird, putting on a suit, a jacket and tie and walking to the Long Island Railroad station to go in to just because I was a reporter for the school paper to take notes because everybody, was lining up to view his body in St. Patrick's, and getting stopped by cops asking me what I was doing walking through the neighborhood at 5 a.m. and thinking, and again, I'm wearing a jacket and tie, looking as respectable as I knew how. And it was a whole different world. It was a very unpredictable world. And I don't know what they saw. I don't know what I saw. But how do you
make sense?
And it was also a world where there was no way, it was a very private world. Once you left the house, you were on your own. There were no mobiles. There were no computers unless you had something the size of a brick. I mean, a bookcase.
House.
Yeah. I mean, heck, we hadn't even made it to the moon yet. It's just looking back on it from this perspective, looking back on it from a storytelling perspective. How can you not steal from those memories and imprint them into the characters that I'm building, and waiting to see how that interacts with both the other characters and the readers?
Right.
Because it's always a matter of trying to excite the readers, to give them a jolt, to make them, as I said before, want to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Because
feel
otherwise,
something,
what's the point of
connect.
writing?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm paid by the word. I talk too much.
No, this is your stage, man. The spotlight's on you. You're performing great. There was a question that came in the chats from Peter, who says, which, I guess through your career, which story was the hardest for you to write? I mean, there's a lot to go through.
Oh no, which story is the hardest to write?
Yeah.
This one. The one I owe my editor right now.
Hey, it's whatever the current one is. Is that it?
No, it depends. I mean, sometimes there are some stories that just pop out. There are other stories that just dig in their heels. This one is proving to be one of the latter. You never know what will blindside you when you start down the road. Especially a story that's locked into a specific dynamic. It's a sequel to story A. It's set in dynamic B. When you're writing an ongoing series, it's a lot easier because you build a momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You have what came before as the thing that feeds what you're doing now and where you're thinking of going tomorrow. Whereas when you're picking up something off, that is derived from something that already exists, you have to sit back and figure, okay, how do I want to go with this? Where do I want to go with this? What do these characters do? How can I make this work when it's got to fit into subsequent continuity? Will anybody really care to read it? Because it's set in a continuity that's 50 years old, 45 years old. I mean, I would love to have done a series derived from the Krakoa continuity, just to play with everybody today.
Makes sense.
But, as the song goes, you can't always get what you want.
That brings a really interesting thought to my head. Is over the years, we've seen these kind of big events happen, right? The crossovers, major world-ending events. I see you rolling eyes already, and like they become at this point almost monthly, if not yearly.
Not my
And
department. That's an editor question.
I'm curious from the writer's perspective. Do you ever, does it give you a moment to go, well, hey, it's more toys to play with, or is it you're more hamstrung into like I've got to fit into what these guys are doing and what they're doing, and is it more fun or is it more work when you have to deal with these?
On a purely personal basis, when Weezy Simonson and Walter and I did the first crossover back in the dawn of time, we thought it was a giggle. The pieces all fit together. That's great. We'll do it. We'll move on. Little did we know, because for me as a writer, as a creator, crossovers get in the way. My job is to write, for the sake of argument, my job is to write Uncanny. My job is not to team up Uncanny with the 10 other titles in the line.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to I don't want to have to read a series that requires me to read the other 35 books in the arc, because A, it's too much money, and B, I'm not interested in those books. I'm interested in this book. Why can't I read this book? There was a series that I was reading, and an issue ended on a cliffhanger. So I bought the next issue. No reference to the cliffhanger at all.
Of course.
I went, what the Dickens? Because the cliffhanger had been resolved 4 issues to the left, because it was moving laterally, not vertically. Well, forgive me. That means I have to shell out $200 a month to buy all the books so I can keep track of all of this. No, with all due respect, that's too much money.
Yes.
If they're good enough for me to earn their respect, that's one thing. For me to choose to want to read the next, I chose to read Thor because I loved Stan and Jack's work on FF. But for someone to do a series or to do a story arc that requires me to read FF and then Thor and then Avengers and then Iron Man and then Doctor Strange, in sequence, no, that's where do I learn about the characters in the series that I'm interested in?
Right. Yeah.
That it makes life as a reader far too complicated.
Yeah.
And it is the way comics are done now. But for whatever, and whether it makes any sense or not, I disagree with it, because that should be the reader's choice. The creators should present a book that in and of itself makes the reader jump up and go, I gotta read this book.
Yeah.
I mean, forgive me for tooting my own horn. There is nothing in the creative world more exciting and fulfilling than finding out that on the 3rd Thursday of every month, when X-Men came out, people would queue up outside the comic book shop waiting for the book to come out so they could be the first ones to buy it and read what happens next. I mean, Holy cow, that is as fulfilling
Mhm.
a response as any writer could wish for, as any storyteller should wish for. But that's what we should be aiming for. Um, you know, and maybe if I create New Mutants down the road, the reader will give it a shot because, hey, I really like X-Men. I'll give this one a shot. But that's something that should be, again, earned.
Yeah.
And if the company's mad enough to bump the X-Men from monthly to 18 issues, hey, I'm good for that. Just as long as I keep the 18 issues on the same, if not a higher level.
Like I get it from a business. Like, we're not here to knock anybody, but from a business perspective, I get like, oh, if we put these characters there, like, the idea is more people will buy more comics. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it makes my heart sing to know that you're on the side of the reader, and like, it's about the experience. It's about the characters and the stories, not just about what's gonna suck more money out my pocket.
Well, and to be quite blunt, no other books selling. I don't see any other books selling 7.8 these days. It's the whole point. Again, when Dave and I took over the X-Men, it was bi-monthly. Partly because Dave could only draw so fast, but also because it did not sell.
Right.
When John took over the book, it started selling. But we had to get far enough ahead of schedule to justify bouncing it up to monthly. And it kept going. And when we got to Dark Phoenix, this is really good. And then 2 months later, we followed it up with Days of Future Past. And again, it's one thing we did that story in 36 pages, 2 issues. Nowadays, it would be a 36 issue crossover.
Yes.
No, I mean, the point, Stan's point was you get on, you say your piece, you get off. Archie Goodwin, when he was editor in chief, says, okay, you have a dud issue. Okay, you got 30 days to fix it. You keep structuring. I mean, Stan's point was because our sales outlets were so poor. We didn't have comic book shops in those days. We went out through newsstands. I mean, I bought my first FF from a newsagent, coffee shop. But you couldn't guarantee the next issue would be there,
Right.
But once we hit comic book shops, things got very interesting. So with John, the book made it up into 250,000. Dave's came back on the book. The sales stabilized, kept increasing. When Smitty took over, holy cow. In less than a year, we were suddenly pushing 500,000. I mean, no one had ever seen numbers like that. The argument, I mean, my point with X-Men 1 was, silly as it sounds, okay, selling 7.8, yeah, that's easy. The challenge is 12 issues later. Maybe we can still sell over 1 million. If we can get away with that, you're changing the whole dynamic, not simply of X-Men, but of the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't shy about it then. I was greedy. If I'm going to sell this ridiculous number, let's see if we can keep it going. Let's see if we can kick it up a notch.
Of course.
Didn't work out quite the way I thought, but that's the joy of, it's like if you can take off, heck, if you can take off from an aircraft carrier, maybe you can take off a B-15, a B-17 sorry. You can take off an Army bomber from an aircraft carrier. If you can take off vertically, who knows what'll come next?
Right.
If you can make it to the moon, why not to Mars?
That's so true.
It's the point is, if you can hit one objective, well, up the ante, see what happens next.
Yeah, challenge yourself. Now, I gotta ask, because I mean, the list of characters you've created is way too ridiculous to go through all to gold. But fan favorite: Rogue, Psylocke, Phoenix, Mystique, Emma Frost, Jubilee, Sabretooth, Sinister, Forge, Gambit, Kitty Pryde. I mean, just to name a few. Like, these are all people that I mean, it just screams X-Men. These people inside and out. I'm curious how do you create like all these characters? How do you just imagine these people? Do you pull inspiration from real life? Do you just
Everyone keeps asking me, well, when I started, nobody else was doing interesting women, so I figured, okay, I'll do it. But you steal from the people my mother. There's nothing. Her favorite story was like she would be lying on the cliffs overlooking Beachy Head, catching some rays, and this Messerschmitt just saw her there and decided to come down and say hello, and he strafed it, all the way up the cliff. As my mother was fond of saying, 5 inches one way, 5 inches the other way. Why, Christopher, you would have had a totally different father. And I go, that's certainly one way of looking at it. I have another close friend who's won just about every major writing award in the United States, and used to be every, if Ebola would break out in Africa, she'd grab her mop suit and go see what she could find. My best friend, who was my best person at my wedding, there's nothing like waking up in the morning and hearing her say to Scott Simon, "Will you duck, Scott? They're shooting at us," and hear the bullets go by. And belatedly realizing that even NPR wouldn't put that on the air if anything bad had happened. But the first couple of minutes were scary as hell. I mean, they were probably a lot worse for her. But I know a tremendous number of really strong. My wife, it's like we were flying up the coast, and we stopped in this small airport, and she went to the bathroom. And while she was there, three might have been pre-Blackhawks, might have been Hueys, I'm not sure. Basically, they landed, and the company commander comes in the ladies' room, and the next thing she hears is thump, bam, crash, boom, thump, expletive, wham. Because she came in full combat gear, and she had to get it off so she could utilize the facility. And she comes out afterwards, and she's this petite young lady, surrounded by about 24 significantly taller combat troops, and they jumped to attention and flashed salutes in a split because she was the boss. And you did not, didn't matter for them, male, female, short, tall.
Yeah.
She had bars, they didn't. This is the way you do it. And it's a way of, for me, again, of stealing from the realities around me. And the joke with my mom is that, she couldn't get her pilot's license because, well, I came along and then my sister came along, but 10 years later, in 1960, she got it, and then got a plane, and then flew hell for leather for 50 years.
Oh.
So it's a matter of identifying what one wants and achieving it, and then keep going hell for leather, and see what happens next. And then from my perspective as a writer, swiping the best elements of it from all of them. Again, from my best friend, getting dropped off in Sarajevo with a hard hat and a bullet vest, a field jacket, and a gold belt, because dollar bills wouldn't cut it, and racing across the airfield because the 130 wasn't going to stick around, and getting undercover, and then catching up with the crew and moving on from there, and making sure to crash with the New York Times because they always had the best condiments.
Of course.
And you trade. This is not what you hear hanging out, in a coffee bar in Brooklyn. But from a writer's standpoint, it's the stuff you borrow.
Yeah, you utilize it for sure.
Well, because you morph it along the way, but this is what makes stories fun, is that moment, that aspect, element of truth that gives the twist of reality to a story. Again, for me, and this always gets me into trouble with editors, I find characters in, as I call them, skin suits, superheroes, pretty much boring. I'd much rather have them. Clark Kent is far more interesting than Superman. Because he's real life.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know how he feels about being the only member of his culture on this world. And what are he and Lois going to do? How are they going to, if they're in love and they want to get married, what happens next? Where do they go next?
Yeah.
Well, it's not, you can make jokes, but this is their reality.
Right.
It's dealing with places you've never been, people you've never met, circumstances that seem crazy. And how can you use it? It's sort of mean, but if I can find the right way to make it work with the characters, so the reader can pick up the book and fundamentally say, oh my God, I've met somebody like that. I've had a conversation like that. I've been to a place like that.
Yeah.
Again, this is where you try to have the reader fall in love with the series. You find that the way to fall in love with the series is to fall in love with the characters. The way to fall in love with the characters is to focus on them. And you focus on them by making this story about them, not, forgive me, by doing vast, broad chronicles.
Mm.
It's, yeah, I want a chronicle. I'll go read Harry Potter. But Harry Potter had the same cast growing up from the first to the last.
Mm.
And, that's what made it cool.
I gotta ask you, because and we're running short of time, and I don't want to hold you too long. But being that you're here, and I mean you are the subject matter expert, we've obviously seen an explosion of superheroes adapted into movies and TV and cartoons and all these things and all the media. You probably know where I'm going with this. Like,
No, I just have no love for Fox. And yes, I'm waiting to see. I mean, the trailers look really cool.
That's right.
But the note I left Hugh Jackman was, I don't care who is top billing, just so you win. Actually, just so you kick his ass.
That's awesome. But and that's it. It's your work is arguably among the best, and rightfully so. It's for the picking of movies and TV, and we're gonna Legion, the TV series, obviously Days of Future Past and Wolverine and all these.
Legion gave Bill Sienkiewicz and me upfront billing the same size as the writer and the director and the producer, which I cannot tell you how wonderful that was to see.
As it should be.
And
As
I
it
cannot
should
tell
be.
you how waiting until the next to last credit at the end of the crawl, at the end of the movie, is so frustrating.
Yeah. If it's inspired, if it's based on a character you created, it should be right up there at the top. Hey, it's based on this guy's work, and now here's all the people that brought it to life, in the theater. But
if only you owned a movie studio.
One day. But why? Maybe you can explain why. For all the good, the Hugh Jackmans, and there's been plenty of good elements to the Fox movies here and there, and obviously in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and things. But why has it been so difficult for people to translate your work? We've had 2 attempts at the Phoenix Saga, and and why has it been so hard for them to get it right? What is it? That's why you're the writer.
They don't hire the right writer?
There it is. There it is.
No, I mean, it's, there are a billion answers for it. The studio that puts up the 9 figures picks the people. In 1988, Stan and I sat down with Jim Cameron for a meeting to pitch X-Men. And I'm thinking, this is great. I have some of the best women characters in comics. Cameron's going to pitch us Catherine Bigelow as the director. This is going to be really, really good. And my thought was, for the first film, I'd just find a way to sit behind the director's chair and take notes throughout the production so I can write a pitch for the second film.
Right.
And this will be how I get out of New York and go to California, much like Stan. Never realizing that Stan had his own idea. And before we could even say a word, he looks at Cameron and says, "Hey, I hear you like Spider-Man." And no, Cameron didn't like Spider-Man. Cameron loved Spider-Man. And in the space of 5 minutes, Cameron was going to executive produce and produce X-Men. In the space of 5 minutes, it had become, he's going to executive produce, write, and direct Spider-Man. And the X-Men was going drifting away on the smoke. And realizing, I had my dream, Stan had his dream, and he was there first. None of us realizing that in the previous 20 years, Marvel had sold the rights to Spider-Man, to every iteration of Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Team Up. Imagine the title, Marvel sold it. None of the studios making the connection between the name Spider-Man and the fact they were just buying the same character over and over again. But also realizing it's Cameron, it's Spider-Man, we're all going to make money. Let's not be a-holes about this, except for the last studio, Carolco, which was already 3 steps off the cliff to bankruptcy. And they wouldn't give. They would not yield. They would not. They wanted all the rights. And everybody had a meeting. And by the time they were some ridiculously short number of minutes into it, Cameron just jumped to his feet and yelled, I'm done. I'm out. I'm never doing this effing yada, 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 blah, 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 ever again. Expletive to all you guys, and walked out the door. And so they went from, refusing to yield on anything to having nothing to refuse to yield on. And that was it until, till Sony came along.
Right.
And so the X-Men went from being produced by Cameron, woohoo, to being produced by Fox, who was, the irony being, of course, that without the first X movie, there may not have been any superhero movies because Fox didn't expect X-Men to make money.
Right.
And the fact that suddenly they had a $99 million opening weekend blockbuster was like, holy cow. And
who would have thought?
Well, clearly not Fox, because they were embarrassed by the X-Men.
Mhm.
They didn't like superhero movies. Were like, ew, we only do proper movies.
Mhm.
So that left the door open for Spider-Man, which was equally good, which left the door open for Iron Man, which made Marvel Studios, and which started a 20-film, 10-year ongoing cavalcade of films that not only never lost money, they never stopped making under billions of dollars of money. And, the X-Men just, and the thing was that Dark Phoenix woulda, shoulda, coulda. But that'll take another 10 minutes to tell that story. And, it's just, but it's
true.
Well, all I ever, it just, the X-Men, for me as a creator, I think the X-Men would be much more, especially given technology, TV technology, be much better as a Game of Thrones reality done as an ongoing arc, simply because of the evolution of characters over the time of the X-Men, and the fact that you could grow the characters up. You could pick a bunch of characters who, like the Game of Thrones characters, start out as kids and grow into maturity as the series goes along, as the arcs go along. While you have the original group of X-Men, just blazing the way.
Off gallivanting around the world. I
Well,
have
or
to
the
ask you.
universe, whichever.
I have to ask you, and I promise will be the last question because I could have
Well,
I could.
are there any questions from the audience?
Oh,
'Cause I feel like I've been hogging all the time here, and I'd like to do some quick, short answers for them before Beth kills me for talking too much.
Okay, a couple quick ones. So Captain Wayne wants to know: do they have scholarships at Xavier's Institute of Higher Learning? I think somebody's paying for it, right?
Well, you have to remember for the first 20 odd years, there were only like 10 students there.
That's
I mean, the
true.
original 5 students, but the only character in the new X-Men that qualified as a student was Kitty. And then that's why Louise Simonson and I created the New Mutants, because, oh my gosh, he really needs students.
You call yourself a school. You got no kids. You got no students.
Well, but it evolved into a proper school in the 90s and aughts. But again, then you have to find ways to focus in on those students and tell stories about them.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is you keep the number small because the bigger the more people you have, the more challenging it is to create ongoing stories.
Sure.
And how do you keep track of everybody?
Yeah, a lot of stories to tell. Pete wants to know if you had to pick another superhero to write besides like X-Men, so maybe non-mutants. What's your go-to superhero to write for?
Well, the one I went to was Sovereign 7 over at DC. I mean, the one I'll always go to first is the characters that are mine and not Marvel's or DC's.
Right.
The trick is finding a way to publish them. Almost had a shot at joining up with oh, for gosh sakes, Jim Lee's and everybody's outfit after they booted Marvel.
Right.
But that didn't work. But yeah, but forgive me, but my stuff as opposed to anybody else's.
Of course. I mean, it makes all the sense. I do want to ask you because I read out there and I know everything on the internet's true. So that you had written a treatment for a Gambit movie.
Yep.
I'm curious, without all the rules and to you, like what's your pitch for a Gambit movie? What would make a great Gambit movie?
One that was all about Gambit, nothing to do with the X-Men, and that you would lead into that perhaps at the end.
Sure.
But again, as with comics, the first rule of the first movie is fall in love with the character. The Lauren Schuler Donner wanted to do an adaptation of Frank Miller's and my Wolverine miniseries because she fell in love with Wolverine as we did it.
Yeah.
Fox insisted on them doing an origin story first because Fox's attitude was no one will know who he is, which I say no more. Fox is Fox. You cannot, they got their $90 billion and are living happily ever after. But it was the problem with, and yes, I totally accept that the film audience is much, much bigger than the comic book audience. But at this point, we were 2 movies into the X-Men.
Yeah.
A, they get I'm sure they know what was going on, and B, you can always fill in the grace notes around the side. the trick with the Wolverine, as the first, I guess, 2 acts of the Wolverine showed, because those were the acts that were derived from the story.
Right.
You could figure it out for yourself. The third act just took it right off the cliff faster than a speeding bullet, and then the next film just threw away the second film. I mean, it was just like, oh, for goodness sake.
I love it. I love it. I love hearing it from you.
Well,
Can I ask you this? Because
I mean, yeah.
Sorry, we know the MCU. We know X-Men are coming. We know that, right? We've already announced Fantastic Four and the cast and all that. They're gonna bring X-Men into the MCU. I mean, they have to.
They're bringing Logan in, and Hugh Jackman, who said he was done with superheroes,
right?
Apparently has said last year he'd be willing to do Wolverine again if he got, Robert Downey Jr. and Spider-Man
right
in the film too. At which point you suddenly heard Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. suddenly muttering, might be an idea. And people suddenly thinking, yeah, maybe there is that much money in the world.
I mean, $1 trillion movie?
No. Oh, as opposed to the Avengers 2-parter, which was the $1 trillion 2-part movie?
Right, exactly.
It's all it takes is the right actors and the right story. If you have the right story, the right script, you can go anywhere and do anything. I mean, but without the story, as the saying goes, forget about it.
So if and when, because I think it's when, we see the X-Men, the MCU version of the X-Men, where do you lie as far as like, do you want them to adapt any more of your stories, or you're just like, you know what, leave my stuff alone?
Oh no, God no! I'd love to see the characters done right, the stories done right. Everybody's very excited has been very excited with the animated X-Men this spring.
97. Yep.
Good for them. My disadvantage is I haven't seen it. But I'd just like to see it done right. I'd like to see it done with characters and moments that are worth the investment of 2 hours or 2.5 hours or 3 hours. I mean, the most heartbreaking reality of Days of Future Past is the discovery after they'd released their first trial, the first trial to see how the audience would respond to the movies, and suddenly it disappeared. Well, it disappeared because it was discovered in-house that Captain Marvel and Days of Future Past had the exact same third act. And since Fox was in the process of trying to be sold to Disney, which kind of gave Marvel an advantage, that's the reason the movie disappeared for a year. They had to reshoot the third act. Everything in Dark Phoenix, from the moment they get on the train, is a reshoot. But they had to get all the actors back together again. And the way Hollywood goes is you finish one film, you apparently immediately go on to the next.
Right.
And everybody had to adjust their schedules. And, what are you going to do? It probably would have been better titled. Oh, and they weren't allowed to use, Dark Phoenix was not allowed to use any Phoenix powers, because if you look at Captain Marvel, when she flies up to confront Ronan, and she's floating there in outer space like this, with her hat kind of looming up and over. I'm looking at that at the trailer. When I saw the preview, and thinking, I have to say I've seen that character design before. And so so she can't, they couldn't use any powers. They couldn't use any elements from the film. They can't use any references. The only reference they can use to Dark Phoenix is the title, Dark Phoenix. And so my thought was, wouldn't it be better to just call it Jean Grey Has a Really Bad Day? It would be a lot more honest. But
what are you gonna do?
Well,
Hollywood, baby.
Well, yeah, but you also have a cast of extreme quality. So I keep saying there is fair and there is not fair. And the other thing is that this is the last, if you don't count New Mutants, which please don't, it's the last. All Fox wants to do is get this off of its plate.
Yeah.
And free, but it shoulda, woulda, coulda been so much better. Yeah. And I guess the challenge for any X-Men related movie is that the Marvel schedule is booked up for decades, it seems like. Yeah. So unless they, pull one arc of films and slide, once they figure out what the story is and who the characters are and who they're going to get for it and how they're going to pull it all together and how much fun they want to have with it and how essentially it's going to integrate into the Marvel universe. Again, my fantasy about it back in the day was you get to the end of Captain Marvel and you run the credits, and then you get to the end of the credits and Carol Danvers is in her apartment overlooking the back bay and her phone's ringing. Well, you start hearing the phone ringing as you get to the end of the credits. And, then you get a shot of the back bay looking out through this beautiful panoramic window and the phone's ringing. And then Carol walks in and picks up the phone and you hear Patrick Stewart. Carol? And she goes, Patrick? And she looks up at the screen and grins, and then we cut. Mind you, Captain Marvel went a totally different direction. But who listens to me? What do I know?
That's worth money right there. We've kept you on so much longer than we should have, but this has been just the greatest conversation. I truly want to thank you for your time. I hope in the future we can have you back. We can have more philosophical debates and talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about Deadpool and Wolverine and all the other. I think Fantastic Four is coming, so we gotta.
Well, I'll tell you next time. I'll tell you my secret ending for Days of Future Past.
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. Stay tuned for the next time.
For the film, which would then lead into Apocalypse done right.
Of
which
course.
would then lead into Phoenix, which would then lead into Dark Phoenix. Which would then lead into Old Man Logan.
I love it.
Oh, that actually not Old Man Logan.
Logan. Is there well, first, where can people follow you on social media? And is there anything you have upcoming that you want to promote, either work or appearances or anything like that? Let the people know where they can find you.
Well, I'm if anybody's in the vicinity of oh, for goodness sakes.
Was it the Carolinas?
Yeah. This is what you call brain fart. Nope. Sorry, I used the F word. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on chrisclaremont.com. And as far as new stuff, I've got a series that'll be starting right after Wolverine Madripoor Nights ends, which is the end of this month. And then the next series starts the very beginning of July. Oh God, we're in June already. Yeah. And this is, if I can ever get this sorted out, is what will come right after that, which is theoretically going to be, let's see, July, August, September, October, or November, just in time for New York Comic Con. Sorry, I'm just going crazy here. And we'll keep on going happily ever after. I mean, it's, I may be stuck in the 80s and 90s, but it's still fun. And see where it goes from here. But thank you all very much for listening. Thank you all very, very much for your service. It means more than any of us can say, even if some of us, and I'm looking in the mirror, can be total jackasses. But that's a totally different discussion altogether. And, the last, holy cow, it has been that long. The last hour and a half has been a lot of fun, even if I do talk way too much.
No, I told you my goal was for you to have a good night and have a good time and just wax philosophical with us and have a good time. So everybody in the chat is adoring you. They love you. They're saying thank you. They're saying why you have to leave us on a cliffhanger like that. But hey, you're a comic book writer. That's what you do. Well,
but see that but this is where you can all think about what I'm going to say and come join my Instagram. And I mean, I've only got let's see, Sophie Turner is 2 million and change, and let's see, at this
little shy of that.
She's a blonde. What can you do? I mean, she is the most gorgeous blonde imaginable. But
I love it.
Like the saying goes, what can you do?
Hey, everybody go follow Chris. I mean, my God.
I'm 18.4 kilos.
There you go.
So come on, let's get to 20,000.
We're gonna get you there. Everybody, go out there, follow Chris. Obviously, if he's check your local conventions. If he's there, I'll be at New York. We'll definitely cross paths, and maybe we can shoot like a silly little vignette or something. But honestly, thank you so much for your time. I mean, you are a legend. And more than just your work, you're an incredible human being. You know, like I said, I had a really good time, you know, reading your history and getting to appreciate more than just the comics, but your writings and all your work. So it's been
Thank you very much. That's very, very kind.
truly been an honor, and I really mean it. I want you back. You know, we'll give it some time. We'll let some new stuff come out, but I would love to have you back and just keep talking about all this stuff.
All you have to do is talk to the boss.
Which, by the way, she's been great. She's awesome. But again,
Not
thank
tonight.
you.
She's trying to plug in a cable, TV cable, and it's not going well. So I'm,
You go. You're needed. Your
Oh, no,
superpowers.
she's not here. Thank God. For me, anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm gonna toss it to a break, guys. Hang tight. We're gonna have more show for you. I'm gonna go say goodbye to Chris in private, and yeah, just go follow the man. God, just go
Again,
go,
thank you guys very, very much. It's been a lot of fun.
and go buy more copies of X-Men. We got to get it to 8 million, right? Like that's go buy more copies.
Your mouth to God's ear.
There it is. All right, guys, we'll be back with more show right after this.
You're listening to the sounds of WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, you there? Yeah, it is right, you. Let me ask you something, right? Where the hell do you think that you're going? Oh, would you think because the show is going to commercial that means you get to just walk away? Well, CQ asked me to pass on the little message, alright? And it says, I'll be back.
After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me now? And if I told you everything, I bet you cry and run away. 'Cause with all the lies I keep, made you believe this was me. The truth is I am not at all who I preach myself to be. And I deserve to be alone, and I'm alone here with me. And after all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me now? And if I told you everything, I wonder if you would believe that with all the ways you've tried, I couldn't change my selfish needs. And with endless love from you, I took for granted everything. And I deserve to be alone here with me. After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love
Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Let's bring in Angry Elf. Hey.
Whoa.
Oh man, we need smoother intros. You and Mad might kill me with Jesus Christ. All right. Anyway,
Wait, you want me to do my best, Mad Mike?
sure.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
hey, yeah, I'm here. What do you want?
Uh,
Dude, how awesome was Chris fucking Claremont?
you know, one thought occurred to me. He is more Professor Xavier than anybody else. Like, think about it. He has done more for the X-Men than anybody else. He is Charles Xavier.
I mean, it's hard to argue that. He's done more good and more bad to the X-Men.
Oh yeah. He's
Um,
tortured them more than yeah.
yeah,
Or you know, he may not be Charles Xavier. He may be more Eric
Magneto,
Magnuson. Yeah, Magneto.
Magnus.
Magnus. Whatever name
I
he goes by this week.
dude, I absolutely adore him. I think he's awesome.
He-
I met him at I think it was Richmond Comic Con,
okay.
and dude, the show was closed. It was closed. It was empty, and there was like a handful of people that were just kind of hanging around, just chit chatting. Chris was one of them, and I think he was talking to some artists. And I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey man, I don't want to bother you, but big fan, loved your work, and I just want to say how much it means to me." And he's like, "Oh," and he just started talking to me, and I was wearing like the WTF Nation radio stuff. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh well, I'm with this. I'm a nerd with this radio." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool, man." And we had a great conversation. He talked about his military connection and his thoughts on things, and he was asking me questions, and I was like, "Hey, man, would you ever want to come on the show and just shoot the shit about like?" He's like, "Here's my email." Like, or here's my, here's my handler, here's my agent. but he's like, "Yeah, tell her I said I want to do this." And it's so funny. And I think I told you the story and somebody else that when I first emailed her, she was very nice, very responsive. And she goes, Chris doesn't really do interviews. And I'm like, "But he gave me your email for a reason." And I think maybe he does that. And like, it's her job to like, thank you, but no. And so she's like, "Yeah, he doesn't. I just want you to know he doesn't really do interviews." And I was like, "Well, can you just ask?" And then she comes back later and she's like, "Oh, yeah, no, he really wants to do this one." And then we were trying to work out a date. And she goes, "When do you usually do the interviews?" And I said, "Well, they're usually 9 p.m. on Tuesday nights." And she goes, "Oof." She goes, "He's usually in bed by 8." And like she goes, you're already pushing it with the interview as it is." And she's like, "There's no way he's gonna want to do it." And I said, "Okay, no, that's fine." I said, "It happens, if we're dealing with busy people, we'll pre-record it and then we'll air it during the live show." And she goes, "Okay, I'll talk with him." And she comes back, she goes, "Well, I was wrong again. He wants to do it live." And I was like, "What?" And but yeah, man, what a cool dude. Just a cool dude. And I love the fact that like every question that I brought that came from a place of like, as a comic book reader, this frustrated me, right? As a comic book appreciator going to the movies, this frustrated me. He was right there with us every time. He's like, fucking crossovers where I gotta buy multiple issues of shit that I don't even read. And like, he was like, that is a man of the people. Chris Claremont for president. That's what I say. That's a man of the people.
CQ, if you ever take over Marvel Studios, get Chris Claremont to write the X-Men movies. Or at least be involved in the story creation. He doesn't have to write the whole thing, but be involved, like executive producer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
I mean, if they had just listened to him, I mean, almost all the ideas he had that he was just spitballing off the top of his noggin were better than what they did. Like, freaking listen to the guy. Like,
he wrote like 90% of the X universe. or at least set the stories up that spawn up. Again, I go back to my previous statement. He's more Professor Xavier than most other people.
Yeah, like Kevin Wayne says, Claremont is a real mutant. Him and Keith Richards.
Yeah.
But alrighty. Well, I've kept you all up way later than usual. I felt bad because I didn't want to keep him long, but at the same time he seemed like he was enjoying himself and he was just telling his story. And I'm like, I'm like, man, I'll let you riff. Just go for it. Just
do it.
Let it all out. Preach. Preach to the choir. Oh man. What a good dude, man. I really enjoyed that. And hopefully we'll have him back in the future. And I can tell him how right I was about X-Men and how I knew the Marvel universe better than he did, and all that stuff. All that stuff we'll do. We'll talk about that later. But all right, everybody, real quick, you know the drill. Here at WTF Nation Radio, we have tons of programming throughout the week, starting with Sunday nights, the sports bar, where sports balls and all those things happen. Mondays, the Monday edition. That's your news, commentary, and discussion about what's going on in the world. Pay attention. Shit's happening. You should know about it. Tuesdays, right here with us on Pop Culture Warrior. If not Mad Mike, then our atypical Angry Elf is here in relief. So super atypical, neurodivergent and all, but he's here hanging out with us. Wednesday nights, the Smoke Pit. That's all you lower enlisted. You know who you are. That's for you smoking and joking fools. Thursdays is Sergeant's Time, and that's all for you big army. That's all for you people with the chevrons and whatnots. You get that show. Friday nights is Friday Night Freedom. That's our jack of all trades. That's our Swiss Army knife show. That's where everything goes down. That's where you never know what could go down. And not listed here, but one day we've got to update this graphic. Saturday nights has weekend co-ops. If you want to just chill place to hang out, watch somebody play some video games and talk shit, then that's your spot with Nemo. And honorable mention, it's not an official WTF Nation Radio show, but it is part of the family because it's within the confines of Pop Culture Warrior. Check out FTX this Friday. We're going to be playing games. We're going to be playing games and shit. We're going to be drinking. We're going to be shooting the shit, playing games and drinking. What else? What more can you ask for? Honestly, what more can you ask for? And if nothing else, check out the new studio. The new studio is phenomenal. And honestly, my goal, my future state. Oh yeah. Sorry, Billy. He said the YouTube version that's in vertical. I'm working on it. That's one of the things I need to work on. The vertical version doesn't get all the graphics and things like that. Yes, fair point, true. I'm working on it. Okay, I can only do one thing at a time. I've already destroyed my desk and my monitor setup and my cameras and my other part of my studio. I can only fix one thing at a time. I'm getting to it. But as I was saying, future state, end goal for FTX is to set it up in a way that someone could participate virtually. So like you, Angry Elf, we could bring you up on a monitor and you'll be there and you'll get the same view that we have. And then maybe like on your roll, somebody would roll for you, but you would make the decisions for your character. We'll play. It'll have to be the right game, right? Because it's hard if you have like cards that are private. It's a little more difficult. But on games where it's like your character needs to decide to do go left, go right, you can do that, and we'll control the character for you. But like that's the goal, is to eventually make it interactive. Maybe even like have live voting. So like, should we go left or should we go right, and have like the audience decide and kind of move the story along. So there's some cool stuff that I'm working out. That's the technology's there and the setup's there, and like I said, once we have the table and the chairs and everything, like I've got a 10-year plan. I got a 10-year plan.
You're creating
for
your
this.
danger room.
That's right. It is. Oh, baby, it's gonna be dangerous. It's gonna be real dangerous. It's already dangerous.
What game are you playing Friday? What game are you playing this Friday?
That's a great question. I'm 50-50, honestly, on if we're gonna play something new, because I have this like Back to the Future game that I've been dying to play, but I haven't played it yet. Or 50-50 on that, or doing something that we're comfortable with and we know, only because it's the new studio, it's the new setup. I worry, trying to figure all the new stuff out plus figure out a new game at the same time could be too much. So it might be easier to play a game that we know and we're comfortable with while we're testing out the new studio, and then maybe saving the next time to dive into a new game. So I don't know. We're figuring it out.
So you're gonna play Go Fish on Friday. Got it.
Yes. But basically, much like any other Pop Culture Warrior show, we'll fucking figure it out as we go. Like we're building this bitch as we fly it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm already up in the air. I'm wearing a parachute. Fuck it. Let's go. It is what it is.
Fuck it.
Billy wants to know, are you mainly in card games? How about Warhammer 40K? Here's the thing. I've dabbled in like those big, not necessarily Warhammer 40K, but like I had a buddy of mine who's really big into like almost like military simulations where like you had the tanks and the soldiers and like you had a battlefield and you'd put up houses and like there was rules about like, you can engage from this many inches away and like, and you had this field of view and all these different things. And the problem was, it was massive. It was like we would put like 3 tables together and it covered the whole thing. So A, it was massive. B, it took fucking forever. I mean, I don't even think we'd ever finish a campaign. Like we'd start at like 6 p.m. and finish at like 1 a.m. and we're not even done. And so I don't think that necessarily works well to streaming. Somebody asked, what does FTX stand for? FTX, Friday Night Tabletop Exercise. Which
wrong. Field training exercise.
Our FTX stands for Friday Night Tabletop Exercise, which is a great name given to us by one of our awesome fans and viewers.
I like that name. That's a great name.
It works perfectly. And when you see the graphics that I have, I'm so excited. And when I tell you this is not it is an offshoot of Pop Culture Warrior, but like own studio, own music, own graphics, own setup, live people here, some people some people you don't, and it's a lot of fun, man. It's the
graphics. Did you share it on Patreon? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes and no. So there's the logo. The logo's done.
Right.
The logo's done. It's been decided, but there are some animated graphics that you will see of the logo in action, basically. And it's very cool, man. I went all out. I'm not gonna lie. I went all out. Lights.
T-shirts?
Huh? Was that?
T-shirts?
T-shirt. You know what? I like the logo so much that I think I might actually make some merch for it. Like I like the logo the logo came out so good that I might make some merch for it. Let me see. I think I can share real quick before we call it a night.
You make some T-shirts. Let me know. I'll throw some cash down.
Ooh, hey, what do you want in return for that cash?
A T-shirt.
Oh, well, never mind then.
Unless you're offering something else, and then we can work something out.
I mean, we can figure something out. Let me see. Did I save it on this computer? I don't know if I did. Oh, yep, there it is. All right, so there's this one. Whoa, no! I just covered the whole screen. Whoops. Hang on. I'm doing this on the fly.
Break it.
There you go. That's hi. That's the this is terrible workmanship, guys, of me. Producer, you suck at this. But that's the FTX logo. Obviously, the T, it looks like a table, and it's a die, and it's some guns, it's some bang bangs, and yeah, it's pretty dope. I like it. It came out great. Looks a little like the FX logo,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's okay. Hopefully, we don't get sued.
You're not gonna get
I'm
sued.
sure
They
it'll
don't
be
exist
fine.
anymore.
That's true. That is true. They aren't there.
I mean, well, they got rolled up into Disney. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bob Iger is going to be pounding on your door here in about an hour.
Yeah. All right. Anywho's, guys, thank you so much for tuning in as always. Let me know, what do you think of the. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. It's gonna look different next week.
Just keep tweaking it.
Yeah, it'll be tweaked. I don't. It doesn't. I feel like I'm off centered, and I don't know. Well, we'll get it there. We'll get it there. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Thanks for hanging out. Big shout out to our guest, Chris Claremont. Thank you to Angry Elf for joining us. As always, we have more outstanding guests coming soon. There'll be more to be announced. I'm very excited. Like I said, if you missed it earlier, we got some collaborations with some pretty cool stuff. So I got to be careful what I say. More to be announced very shortly. I've got calls tomorrow and throughout the week with some very cool things and some very cool people, and very excited to share what we're going to be sharing. So keep up, follow, like, subscribe, do all the things, share the things.
Patreon money helps.
Poke the things.
Adding these new cameras for his.
I mean, actually, I've been thinking about upgrading the camera because, well, anyway, that's a whole. Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that. Long story short, you don't have to give money, but check us out, FTX on Friday. It likes, shares, subscribe, comment. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you all. Lots more coming. I owe Billy a gift or a fucking package. I still haven't sent that out yet. Like, literally, you don't see it, but off camera, it's a mess. It's a pile of things that as I've been redoing this side of the studio and that side of the studio. It's a mess. But alrighty, guys.
I can only imagine.
You've seen pictures. You know what it looks like. It's a fuck. Is it not a mess? It's a goddamn mess.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Oh man. But well, movie magic. Bring. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Shots.
Hasta luego, mi amigos.
All right.
Doc! Oh, no! We're too late! We missed it! Oh, jeez, this is heavy. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Doc, I got a time machine. I'm just gonna punch in the coordinates. Pop Culture Warrior, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WTF Nation Radio. Now crank this bad boy up to 88 miles per hour.
Let's see it.